Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. I'm Barbara Coffey, Director of Economic Initiatives for the City of Tucson. Today, we're going to have a great panel of speakers share some resources, tips, and techniques around digital marketing for your business. We'll take your questions as we go, so feel free to enter those in the chat box or the Q&A section. We'll get to as many of those as possible in our time together this afternoon. We will keep all participants muted since we do have a large number of attendees. However, we do record the session and we'll make that available for everyone tomorrow. You can find links to all previous webinars and then this one today at connecttucson.com. So let's get started. First up, Armando Ojeda, Chapter Chair for SCORE Southern Arizona. Armando was appointed as Chapter Chair of the SCORE Southern Arizona chapter on January 1st this year. The SCORE vision is to give every person the support they need to thrive as a small business owner. The SCORE mission also fosters vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. All of this is done by volunteers. Prior to relocating to Green Valley, Arizona in November last year, Armando served as co-chair of the SCORE Southeast Michigan chapter in Detroit. He just jumped right in, bringing with him all of his experience as a corporate executive, business association director, and small business owner. Among his noteworthy assignments, he was Director of Minority Supplier Development for Ford Motor Company, Executive Director of the Michigan Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and President and CEO of Marvel Earth Management. It's like an Avenger, I think, or something. An environmental service provider, actually. A big welcome to Armando. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll start off with you this afternoon. Armando?
Thank you, Barbara. Well, so you don't want to introduce our other guests?
I will save the good news for a few minutes after you're all done, and we'll keep rolling.
All right, very good. So thank you, Barbara, and welcome to everybody to this session today. You know, there are 5 generations of people in the workplace now, and I'm on the older spectrum. So I have to be very candid about this with you because the people that are going to follow me know more than I do. And so what I'm going to tell you is that I'll talk about strategy because I'm not a marketer. That's not my discipline, but I have been an enterprise and business leader. And so I hire people like the ones that we have, and I've seen some of their work and it's really fabulous. And so I will talk about the principles, but I won't get into the detail. I will save that for the people who are the subject matter experts, just to be clear. So speaking of that, let me start and find my way to getting the presentation. So here we go. I'm going to exit the screen and I'm going to find my place here. Okay. Now I have to share my screen. That's what I understand I have to do now.
Look for that little green button.
I'm looking for that little green button. Yes, I am, ma'am.
Is he at the bottom? He might be at the bottom of your toolbar.
It is at the bottom of my toolbar, but what I see is, okay, so I don't want to miss out here because I have my PowerPoint up, but I don't have it on my screen. Okay, so here it is. And now let me see if I can put it up here, bottom of my toolbar.
The little green, bright green button. If you're on a Mac or Apple, it might, or iPad, it might be up at the top. So
okay, I'm going to share my screen now. There we are. Aha, I found it. Amazing.
Look at there.
There's my point there. Okay, so here's sort of the opening slide. Barbara did a terrific job already of talking about SCORE. We were founded in 1964, so we've been around a while. Barbara talked about our mission to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. And our vision is for every person to have the support they need to become a successful business owner. And we deliver on that promise through a network of 12,000 unpaid volunteers in 300 chapters across the country. And we have some really, really good partners, Google, FedEx, a really new company called Software Advice that helps small business owners choose the right software for their business. So, and if you become a SCORE client, it's free to you. As I said at the beginning, we're going to talk about marketing principles and the application of the principles to small businesses like yours. So why is marketing important? Well, because you want to get and keep customers, because that's the most important and most difficult task of any business. And also, it's important to be wise about the use of scarce resources that are essential to your existing and startup businesses, because you don't have many resources, so you have to make good decisions about that. Okay, next slide. The first thing that I tell people is that they need to develop a persona. You know, who is your client? Because the purpose of your business is to make money. And the way that you make money is by having a customer who actually pays you for the product or services that you offer. So it's important to get to know those people. So who are they? By age, by gender, by race, by income, geography, all of that. It's really important to know that. And then what kind of users are they? We have what we call bread and butter clients. They buy from us all the time. And then there's those who are occasional users. So which ones are they and how important are they? Because that will place you in the position of concentrating your time, energy, and resources on those who are your heavy users. And then it's also helpful to understand their values. Do they align with the values of your company? You know, if you have a cause or something that you support, like Kristin, you know, has a place-based business. And so, you know, if people who are focused on supporting local businesses, you know, that's a value. So it's important to know what it is that motivates them to actually buy what it is that you're selling. And I also want to make the distinction between marketing and sales. Sales is the function that's narrowly focused on convincing the prospective customer to buy your product. And marketing is a much broader process that includes operational things like where you buy your product, how you move the product, the distribution point, and then profitability issues. Is it priced properly? So those are, you know, marketing is very different from actual selling. So just so there's no confusion about that. So here's something I learned, you know, before any of you were born. It's called the critical P's of marketing. It's product, positioning, price, place, and promotion. And I'll talk about each of these here in a minute. I'm not going to dwell too much on them. So product or service. It's important that you be clear about how your product is unique and what problem the service or product solves for your customer. Okay, that really helps because that will help you formulate your product. And also know the features and benefits of the product you're selling and use it in your elevator speech. You have 30 seconds to tell what that is. Next up is, I got to keep going down all these slides. Come on. Positioning. So where does your product or service fit in the market of similar or alternative products? Who uses the product? Why does the customer use the product? How is it, again, unique or different from that of your competitors? So, you know, you can have a product and you actually should go and look at your competitors and see really where you make a difference and what problem are you solving for them? Why is it that your customer is buying as opposed to them buying from somebody else? And sometimes, you know, that could create, you know, a very different product for yourself. So here's a sample or an example of effective positioning. The people who put together these units for children, you know, they position it as a high-end producer of quality, all natural children's products. So they have a very affluent customer. They have customers who have children, usually are the moms that are buying this, and people who are very concerned that there's no lead or any other toxic substances where their children play. So price, I love this because, you know, people often put their pricing, they just sort of throw a dart at the wall, and that's not the way you do your pricing, okay? Because you have fixed costs and you have variable costs. You need to cover all of those plus your profit and your salary, and that should be part of the cost of your product. So because you need to cover all of your costs to stay in business. but you also at the same time need to be price competitive, right? So how do you have a low price and a high cost? Well, that's the miracle of business, isn't it? For people to figure that out. You know, your price also needs to be in line with your customers' value, because customers have a different perception of value. If you go to some restaurants, they have a lot of food. It's cheap food, but people perceive that more is better, and that's value. But then price can also be a cue to quality. So if you say, well, it's more expensive, people perceive it's, you know, better. But if you have a low price, then people say, well, maybe it's not as good. So you need to figure out that dynamic and be able to talk about why your price is the way that it is in alignment with the value that you have. Then place, where and how your product or service gets to the end user. You know, back in the day, it was pretty easy. You could walk into a brick and mortar store, people would give you something and there'd be a transaction, no problem. Now it's really different. We have Shopify, we have Amazon, we have eBay, we have all kinds of stuff where we pay first and then we wait 2 days or 3 days or a week or however long it is to get the product. But as a business owner, you have to figure out, you know, how that process is going to work. And so here's an example of kind of the supply chain. So these are your channels of distribution. You've heard of factory direct. So some companies are manufacturers and they sell directly to the consumer. That's pretty rare. Usually they go through a distributor who's a wholesaler, and the distributor sends it out to all these different places, including retailers. And more often now is you get to order online from either the distributor or the retailer or the original equipment or original product manufacturer. And so you have to figure out, where does your product fit? Where is the most efficient way of getting it out there? And which channels of distribution are best for your customers? And make it easy for your customers, not for you. So some alternative channels just as an option, your online or retail auctions, you know, again, you know, Shopify, eBay is the auction site, Amazon, you know, there's lots of places where you can place your product online and have it go out. You know, from a physical standpoint, you know, in Tucson, there's tons of farmers markets. There's lots of arts, crafts, and antique markets. You know, there's a whole place here in Green Valley where people buy very nice and secondhand furniture, because you have people coming from back east. They live in a 14,000 square foot home. They're going to move into a 1,700 square foot apartment, and they have to get rid of a lot of stuff, but they've moved it. So that's developed a whole industry out here. And then fruit trucks and carts. You all know about those. Those are really good, viable channels. So promotion. So what do you do with that? Well, in promotion, you communicate the features and the benefits of your offering, and you influence the prospects to buy. So your features, you know, are basically, you know, so it's red, and the benefits, well, you know, it's a nice color on your wall, makes you feel good, you know, just like, you know, the quilt in, you know, Barbara's office, that's what it is. All right. And so here's some examples of promotions. So you can do a discount, you can do coupons, you can do value adds, contests, all that stuff. But the point of all of this is you have to get your customers' attention. You have to have the right messaging, and you have to get them to come to you and buy from you. Close that deal. And then let's see. And now, one of the things that I often tell our mentees is that you need to conduct marketing research, not just at the beginning, but you should continually do it. And so these are some ways of doing it, you know, looking at government statistics, looking at, you know, articles, you know, then doing your primary research. I really like focus groups personally. I get a lot out of it, you know, testing as well, but, you know, it's really critical for you to talk to your customer and talk to your suppliers, because you will get incredible insights from them. You know, you'll have a conversation and they'll give you like 3 or 4 things and you go, wow, why didn't I think of that? Well, because you didn't talk to them. So I'm going to just touch on online media basics, and I'm going to leave it to my fellow panelists to really give you the skinny on that. But for me, it's pretty basic stuff. You have strangers. you want to attract strangers to your site, right? You do that through Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media you use, so you get them to become visitors. And then from visitors, they look at your site, they like all the things that they do, they stay on there 5 seconds or so, and then they become leads because they see something that you like. And if you have the right product and if you have the right process for them to put it in a cart and make the payment and it's not really cumbersome, terrific. Then, you went from a lead to an actual customer, and that's really what you want. And then, if you deliver it on time and you do all these things and you actually do service after the sale, which I think is really, really critical, because that helps you maintain the relationship, then you delight your customer. And then your customer becomes a promoter. They tell somebody else, which is really what you want. And then you just continue that cycle, rinse and repeat. And then, I'm sure my colleagues are going to talk about this. Here's some of the tactics and things that you can use: blogs, podcasts, video. And I understand that YouTube is now like the second most used process for, looking for information for search. Write your own articles, workshops, or do whatever it is that, you want to do. Just be creative and get people's attention. So here's just an example of sharing content on social media. I mean, I like this. This is about preschoolers. I have a granddaughter, so I talk about that. So it's about 1/3 of your own content of all these things, 1/3 of content curation. So you get other stuff that's relevant, you send it to your customers, and 1/3 is engagement. So how do you do that? And that's getting people to ask questions, to be more involved with your product or service. And here's another one that I tend to like is TripAdvisor, because I travel a lot. You tell me about an event, you tell me how well it's rated, you tell me where it ranked, you give me all this information, you give me pictures. It's like, okay, I'm in it. Yep, I'll buy. I don't have to tell you, I don't think, about all of the different types of social media. I think you see them there. So I know that TikTok isn't on there, and there's probably a couple of others, but these I think are the main ones. And then I like this because I'm a foodie. So there you go. That caught my attention. So I'm just going to leave you with these thoughts for your consideration. Just know who your customers are and why they're buying from you. And articulate in 30 seconds, this is your elevator speech, what makes your brand, product, or service offering unique. And then be clear about what problem your product or service is solving for your customer, because they may have other problems and you can add to that. And never, never, never forget service after the sale. So that's my presentation, and I'll cede the floor.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Armando. I was thinking about all the workshops and seminars that your SCORE volunteers are helping to put on. Can you talk a little bit about that? The key word to me is free, right? All of these resources seem to be available at no cost or little to no cost. Tell me about that and how your partnerships with Google and LinkedIn figure into that.
Okay. Well, thank you for mentioning that it's free. People seem to forget that, but it's really your tax dollars at work. We're funded by Congress. So we want you to take advantage of these. So we put on 2 workshops a week, and some of them are localized, and we do what we call relevant business topics. People are always looking for information about finances. Most recently, they're looking for information about PPP loans. They're also looking for information about revitalization. Restaurant revitalization is the next one coming up. So we try to be very relevant about the topics that we share with people. But, marketing is always popular. Finances are always popular. Business operations are always popular. Trademarks are popular. So we do those. Google also has a set of webinars. I mean, they're actually live, but we talk about the use of Google tools, creating your own website, how to use analytics, for progressing your business. And so Google does that because they are our national partner, and they do that at no cost. And we host them across the 3 SCORE chapters in Arizona. Mass Mutual also does seminars for us for succession planning. And I know there's a lot of baby boomers like myself who are saying they're going to retire, but they're not. but they have to have an exit strategy, and we try to encourage that. And because some people actually can sell their business and make a lot of money out of it, that's really the intention, and actually give those assets to somebody else that can take them to the next level. So that's because those are community assets that if they close, those are big losses for our community. So we want to keep them going. So those are the kinds of topics that we talk about. And if you want to sign up for our newsletter, I would encourage you to go to our website, southernarizona.score.org, check in for the newsletter. And we send out a newsletter once a week. And Barbara is one of the recipients. And we talk about all of the workshops that are on. We also have it on our website so you can see when they are. Our next one is about veterans and veteran business owners. We're trying to form a veteran business owners group because there's a lot of them out there. And we have a veteran business owners hub that is very helpful to our veterans and their dependents.
We'll make sure that link is in the chat. You're welcome to add your contact information there as well. There was one question I'll bring up for you. From the attendees, have you seen a change in how ethics are perceived with the emergence of business technology in a highly competitive global arena? And I'm wondering if the question is about sort of that socially responsible business when they ask about ethics. How is that perceived when you're competing against global markets? Sometimes we think, I guess, local impact, carries weight, but how would you answer that?
Well, we have seen a lot of changes because the small businesses have really had to become more competitive, particularly during the pandemic. And so we often encourage them to do some very small things that only they can do that the large companies cannot. So for example, Amazon promises 2-day delivery, but can you deliver in 1 day? Can you deliver the same day? And you actually have a relationship because you can actually talk to the person, either live with your mask, of course, or on the phone or in some way where the people can connect with you and get their issues resolved. How do you get a hold of Amazon? Well, how is that? How's been that experience for you? And so those are the kinds of things. I mean, if you build a relationship, and you have to learn how to build not only a personal relationship, but also a digital relationship, and if you actually keep your promise, then that's really the ethical part of what you do. And the more, and I keep saying this, it's about service after the sale, because sometimes you don't know whether the customer is dissatisfied or not. So if you follow up and say, how was it? And they go, well, this didn't work out, I can make it right for you. And then that'll keep your customer, that'll maintain your relationship. And so the bigger companies don't have time or the resources to do that, but you can.
Great. Well, we're going to keep moving. So next up, Janelle Hagert, social media manager at Swoon Media. She's a transplant from Michigan and Western Africa. Janelle came to Tucson on a train from Chicago in May 2014. She's worked in the hospitality industry for over 15 years in a myriad of roles: server, ice cream scooper, that's my favorite, barista, bartender, sales and social media management. An avid writer and photographer, Janelle is a fantastic storyteller on social media and digital marketing platforms. So with that, we're going to delve a little deeper, and I'll turn it over to Janelle.
Thank you, Barbara. And thank you, Armando. That was a really good overview of just incredible strategies for marketing. I will probably spend most of my time talking about social media platforms because that's my specialty, but to everyone listening, both now and in the future on the website, I'd encourage you to continue to go over those slides that Armando provided, because anything I talk about on specific platforms like Facebook and Instagram are going to be ways to implement the things that Armando just gave you. So I'd encourage you, to even reference this same webinar on connecttucson.com, right, Barbara? Yeah, to remember those slides and implement those strategies. And I'll just talk about how to kind of do it on Facebook and Instagram. There are a lot of other social media platforms as well. Primarily, in Swoon Media, we work with Facebook and Instagram, but you can use LinkedIn, you can use Twitter, you can have some fun with TikTok. For the purpose of this time, just to keep things kind of focused, I'll mostly be talking about Facebook and Instagram. But if you have any questions about anything else, other platforms and how they can be leveraged for your business, feel free to drop a question in the chat or even contact me. I'll find some time to put my contact info in the chat as well, so you can feel free to email us. So a little bit about Swoon Media. We are a Tucson born and raised company. I did move here in 2014, Cinco de Mayo 2014. I pulled into the Maynard's train depot from Chicago on Amtrak. And that was my story of arriving in Tucson. And I've been super sentimental about that train depot ever since. I quickly fell in love with the city, and through different roles, in my career, I got connected with what is now the Swoon Media Partner Team. So you might recognize Nick Fox, Rudy Dabdu, Christina Rossetti, Omar Valle. We've been, building into this beautiful city in one way or the other for a few years now. And by a few years, I mean, they've been doing it for decades, and I just got connected recently. But Swoon Media is all about that. What we do is we help with social media management, but we're really about enabling this city itself to build itself and to develop. Because at Swoon, we really believe that the stronger we are as a city, the stronger we will be as individuals and as individual businesses. So that's the whole point of Swoon Media. A little bit about us. Forgive me, our Swoon Media mascot, my cat, might make an appearance. So forgive me if I'm a little bit distracted sometimes. He's a wild child. So a little bit, I want to focus right now in my talk about giving Tucson small business owners just an overview of how you can leverage social media platforms to build your business and to do everything, like Armando said, of converting strangers into your super fans. You might be wondering if, in my years in the hospitality industry are any indication, you might be wondering, hey, like I have no time to spend on social media with my business. I'm on the floor at the restaurant. I have operations that are demanding all of my time and expertise. I know I need a social media presence, but how do I do it in a way that works for my business? So I wish I had almost a list of all the businesses that you all are representing, but I want to give you just some tools and some answers for that. So I'm going to go way out on a limb here and say I can't think of a business that doesn't need, at the very least, a basic Facebook page. So Facebook is what I consider your second website. It's the way that your potential customers or your existing customers are going to know your website, your phone number, your location, even your menu or your list of services. It's going to give them all of that information. And across demographics now, it doesn't matter how old anyone is, they're probably going to be looking at Facebook for that info. They might not just Google you. They might actually be on Facebook already and just want to search you. So you're going to want, at the very minimum, to have a Facebook page for your business so that when they search on Facebook, they'll find you, they can find that information, and you can give them a way to contact you in the way that matters most to you. So they can direct message you on Facebook. It's like email. They just send a message and suddenly you have a connection with a customer. Or you can funnel them. You can say, hey, like give us a call, or send us an email. You can funnel them into what works best for you as well. But at the very minimum, I'd recommend having just a basic Facebook page. And then you can take it as far as you want. You can post regular photos or videos on there. You can use a Facebook story, which is like a kind of an immediate cycling photo or video platform on Facebook that lets you kind of show like the in the moment parts of your business. Facebook, just to kind of wrap up some of the strengths I see in Facebook, a Facebook page for your business is a really good way to host events, because Facebook events, once you create one, it's really easy for others, for your customers, to share that with their friends, their family, anyone they think. So you'll create a Facebook event for your business, and suddenly you'll see people commenting and tagging each other and saying, hey, like we should go to this, and hey, when do you get off of work? Let's go, so Facebook, if you're ever hosting an event for your business, whatever it might be, that's a great platform for it. And again, like Armando said, and like Barbara said, I think it's free. It's totally free. The other platform I work a lot with is Instagram. And any business can have an Instagram. I mean, you can find a way to curate an Instagram feed for any business. But I would say if you're trying to decide if you need to invest your time and your money in Instagram, whether it's you doing it yourself or you're paying one of your employees who has a passion for it to curate content on your Instagram feed, I would recommend asking yourself, does your business thrive on visual content? So some businesses are very visual. I think of really good photos of food for restaurants or cocktails for bars or national parks and the gorgeous landscapes that they might have. So especially if your business is a primarily visual experience, whatever that might look like, that's what Instagram is really good for, is visual content. That means photographs, videos, Instagram Reels, which are a fun way to create like a 20-second video, super easy, add some fun music to it, and suddenly get your business out to like 2,000 people, right? It's all visual content and it's really good for that. I will say, maybe you think, oh, well, I don't have a business that's quite like that. Well, I just want to let you know that I have a friend who works for an auto repair shop, and like an auto repair shop can provide not only fun videos of their staff, give bios of their staff. You could even create a 20-second video of like, hey, is your car making this really weird noise? Here's what's happening in the engine, and here's what you should do about it. And maybe at the end of the 20-second video, the actual conclusion is that you should just get your car towed immediately into an auto repair shop. Don't try to fix this on your own. But that's suddenly a 20-second video that gets someone, oh, hey, my engine's not right. I should go and get this fixed, and maybe they're going to end up being a really cool customer for you. So I'm just giving that example to say your business might fit a really fun Instagram model to connect with your audience. Instagram users love how-to videos. They love behind-the-scenes videos. I have a friend who makes knives, internationally famous, like high-end knives, and he gives behind-the-scenes videos of his process. And I'm never going to make a knife in my living room, but I love watching what he does, and it's a way for him to connect his brand to the Instagram community. I'll try to keep this quick as well. I don't want to take up all the time, but one thing I will say, if you're thinking about marketing and paying for ads and whatnot, through Facebook and the central hub that is Facebook, you can create ads that will run on Facebook and Instagram that are actually pretty cheap for what you end up getting. So you can spend, for example, $20 over $20 total over the course of 7 days and end up reaching over 1,000 people with that ad that you created from a post that you'd already made or whatever it might be. You can sponsor your event and suddenly 1,000 people are seeing that in their Facebook and Instagram feeds. So I'm not an expert on digital marketing on the more SEO, Google sort of things at the moment. I have my team members who are, but I can speak to the really convenient way to run ads for your business on Facebook and Instagram. It's really user friendly. So that's a good way to just kind of get the word out as well. I can keep talking about all of the tips and tricks of leveraging these two platforms. But I do want to kind of leave room for questions, and I'll drop my info in the chat, and you feel free to email me or message me with your own questions if you want to go more in depth, because that was a pretty basic overview of how you can leverage social media for your businesses. But I'm definitely open to talking about all the ins and outs of it.
I love it. And our theme so far is free. So that's been good. All these great things that you can do at low or no cost. And I was thinking about your curated content ideas. And I was thinking, even if you're like an insurance company or something, some of the posts about your charitable giving or the things that you're involved in or what your people are volunteering and doing, all of that is exciting and people can connect in that special way. So I love that. There's a question from Javier. For you, Janelle, would you happen to know the types of social media skills that businesses seek in college graduates and other potential employees. So if I guess you're a business that you need someone doing that, where do you go to find those people?
It would depend on the business, I would say. So Javier, even if you want to let me know where you're coming from, and specifically if you're interested in your business itself, let me know what you're doing, and I can kind of give some insight there. But in general, so social media skills that businesses seek in college grads and other potential employees.
I think anyone under a certain age is the digital native.
Yeah, I would say age is probably less important, actually, than I would encourage looking for someone who has an understanding, first of all, a passion for the work, because you can't be on 24/7 monitoring messages and comments and stories and mentions and all of that if you don't just actually love Facebook and Instagram. So you're going to want to find someone who just loves being on social media. But that applies to a lot of people, right? So how do you narrow it down? I would say look for someone who understands how to communicate. And communicate means writing. So you're going to want someone who knows how to write well, and also photo and video. So you don't have to be a film grad like I am to be able to create a good video. It helps, but you don't have to be that. You just want someone who will take good photos and take good video and then be able to communicate that in your brand voice, because brand voice is the primary reason to even have Instagram or Facebook. You want to be able to tell people what experience they're going to get when they engage with your company, why your services are the ones they need, why your company is the one that they're going to want to connect with, is not the one down the road. So brand voice, brand tone. I mean, when I manage different accounts, I will change the words I use from caption to caption if I'm creating content for a nightclub versus an ice cream shop. Big difference, right? So you want someone who understands that, especially if you're managing different accounts. Now I'm kind of getting off topic because I manage different accounts, so it matters more that I can switch between tone. But you do want someone who will understand your brand vision and your feeling. Like, what feel do you have for your brand? Are you a neighborhood bar? Are you really the ones who are advertising like super cheap beers and the dive bar experience and come on and hang out and just be relaxed? Or are you the cocktail bar? Are you the one that wants to like flame cinnamon on top of your cocktail? And it's going to be a different brand. So you want someone who understands how to communicate that both in writing and in the content, whether it's photo, video, or whatnot.
Love that. Now I'm ready for a beer and a cocktail. Yeah. I don't know about you. All right. Well, I appreciate that. That's good stuff. We'll come back to it because I think there's going to be more questions at the end, but I want to keep us moving. So I'm going to jump over and introduce our next panelists. So with that, Kristin Tovar is founder and owner of Why I Love Where I Live and co-founder of Cultivate Tucson. Kristin is an Arizona native and founder and owner. I mentioned that. She loves the opportunity to showcase local talent and find unique ways to tell the stories of people and businesses while learning from those who have long cultivated and committed to the place she calls home. She has some fantastic, I think, stories to tell about running her own business and the successes she's had with digital marketing and her atmosphere and experience that she sells. So I'll turn it over to Kristin. Kristin?
Yeah, Barbara, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I don't teach about digital marketing or social media, but I can tell you what I've learned in the process I've been through. And also just want to say that at the beginning of the business, we relied heavily on our SCORE mentor. So Armando and his team are doing great work, and we wouldn't be where we are today without that initial help and ongoing mentorship. So a few things affect your everyday life more than where you live, whether it's the weather, the quality of the neighborhood, the schools, the restaurants, the shops, the public parks, or the lack thereof. Our city is an integral part of our lives. It's the culture surrounding us and the environment that's shaping us. But a lot of people don't take the time to appreciate where they live, which makes it easy to feel discontent, disconnected, and restless. That's part of my story in starting Why I Love Where I Live, which is a movement committed to cultivating a love for our city that shows itself in beauty and active engagement through resources and a connected online community, as well as a local shop. Why I Love Where I Live wants you to love where you live and seek its good, regardless of where that is. When I had been in Tucson for a little bit of time, married a Tucsonan, and realized I would be here forever, I had a hard time accepting that initially. I decided to try a personal experiment and actively change my perception of Tucson and cultivate a gratitude for this place. As I came across things that were interesting or beautiful or caught my eye, I would take photos of them and share them to an Instagram account, which is called Why I Love Where I Live. Over that time, I began to see our city with fresh eyes and want to help other people experience that same thing, whether that's discontentment or being neutral or full on, Tucson cheerleader. I want to help people have that same experience and commit to a place. So now 8 years later, what started as a discipline and gratitude turned into a movement and a hashtag that many people use to share their photos and the things they love about where they live, both in Tucson and beyond. So it's interesting that now we have a physical store and a physical space, but really our whole brand and business was built in the digital realm. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about that today. And like our other panelists, I don't have a ton of technical information to share with you, but I would love to give you some concepts to get started. And then you can figure out where to press into depending on what works for you. So if you can believe this, I'm not very good at screen sharing. Let me see. Okay, green button.
Yes.
Yes, okay. We got this. And then
Yeah.
present.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Great. Yeah.
Great.
So as I mentioned, Why I Love Where I Live, we have a retail store at the MSA Annex, and there's a picture inside of our shop. We also have an online community, which is where obviously my own personal journey with Tucson started, but has turned into a mouthpiece for our business and different aspects of the community. So this was a little bit about this story and where the hashtag came from. If you look on the right side, there's 100,000 posts now of people that have used that hashtag to share their own love and journey of where they live. So I want to talk a little bit about what you and your business or organization have to offer. So as you think about digital marketing, I think it's important to take stock of what you have to offer. So that could be a product or a service, or maybe hospitality industry, food, like we've talked about, and what you have to offer and what your responsibility in that is. So going through this last year, the pandemic, it was a constant updating and changing of our hours and operations, our COVID policies, and just constantly using our digital platforms to get out really important information about where to find us and how to connect with us. Another thing that we had to offer, and you can think through for your business, would be online offerings. So maybe that's products or using something to schedule a visit or a reservation or an appointment. And then shipping for us was another thing. So the last thing that I want you to think through of what you have to offer your business is your values and your perspective. So we've talked about it a little bit so far, but every business has a persona and a personality. And if you aren't confident about what yours is yet, today is a great day to start working that out because that is just the backbone of who you are and the way you present yourself, both in person and digitally. So one thing with our company is we realized we were able to share our outlook, our way of life with people this last year. for example, finding things that are beautiful in the midst of chaos, or cultivating gratitude in a really hard season. And so a lot of what we felt like we could offer was this perspective that we'd had prior to the pandemic, but was really highlighted and became important as things went on. And then also, whether you have knowledge, if you're in an industry like the auto repair shop example, that you have something to share and offer to your community, and also encouragement and resources as well. Then I want you to take stock of what your community needs. So it might be a customer for you, but in general, what does your community need? And this last year, we saw a lot of tangible needs. And for that, we wanted to provide resources, again, connecting people in clear ways of how to get a hold of us, and connecting them to information and opportunities in the community. And then also there's intangible needs in a community too, and in your customers. So this last year, just for example, there was a need for togetherness, as there was a ton of isolation and need for us to come together as a community. And so our business was able to identify that need in our community and come up with ways to help bridge that gap. And consistency is another thing that your community needs, whether they tell you that or not. With any kind of digital marketing, I think frequency for me matters less than the consistency of people knowing when they're going to hear from you and how they're going to hear from you. Then also good news. This is particular for our business. I think this last year in our email list, we started a section called Bright Spots, and we just started sharing pieces of good news and different things that were happening in the world that just brought people to a different perspective and understanding as we were going through 2020. So the other thing is just that our customers and our communities have ongoing needs. And so to be really effective with digital marketing and connecting, we need to be perceptive to the changing needs of our community. So one silly example is just when we started with lockdowns and doing meetings on Zoom, we were like, people need digital backgrounds. Armando has a great one right now. But we had our designer come up with just some fun backgrounds because we knew people were working from home, and we just were able to offer that. And that was an ongoing need. So if you tell your customers in your community that you know what their needs are, and that when they have a need, they'll know where to go. So again, back to that consistency with digital marketing. My car might not be broken down today, but if I've been hearing from the auto repair shop and I've seen them on Instagram or Facebook, I know where to go when I need them. So I think that consistency with the life cycle of our community and customers is really important. So to summarize that, think through what you have to offer, and then what are the needs of your customers? And that's an ongoing thing. You could have new offerings, your customers could have new needs, but overall, that's where you should spend your time on digital marketing. So we talked a little bit about different channels you can do that in. And I'm not going to go into a lot of depth about that, but I just think it's important to think through some of those foundational things for your industry before figuring out where to spend that time, because our time is very valuable. So where should you start? I would look at your existing channels. So where are you connecting with customers now? Is it only in person and you need to add a digital component? Are you on certain social media platforms but not others? Identify, where you're connecting now and where you need to grow. Where can you connect with your customers that maybe they want to see your presence? And then also, I think in digital marketing, it's important to think through what can you reasonably maintain. So Janelle and other companies in Tucson or worldwide can provide social media management. But sometimes businesses are so small that they don't have the ability to outsource that. And so what is reasonable for you? I think I'm a big proponent of pouring into our strengths. And so what do you enjoy and what is going to work for you, and just pour fuel on that rather than trying to maintain every single channel for social media. Because unless you do have a social media manager or a company, it can be hard to keep up with all of those platforms. And again, if you're not consistent on them, that's going to start to affect your customer base as well. So on that note too, as you identify what channels you're in and what you have that's working, also identify what's not working. Like Janelle mentioned, some businesses are very visually driven. If that's not you, that's okay. Maybe you could get on Twitter and start doing something different that would be more effective for reaching who you want to reach. So my few tips for digital marketing, we're hammering this home today, but know your organization's personality. That is just so important and will drive every piece of content that you put out into the world. Armando talked about this as well, but you want your customers to be your biggest fans and be your promoters. And so find ways to encourage your customers to create content for you, or to share it or to tell their friends about it. This last year, we started doing what's called a 7-day challenge, where we have people post one thing each day about why they love where they live and with the hashtag, and they get a certain percentage off in the store when they do that. So it's a way that we're helping our customers cultivate gratitude, but they're also letting other people know about this. And what I've seen that's interesting since starting it is people have just taken it on their own. They'll just say, I'm going to challenge, whatever person to post. And it's not even the structure that we've set up. They're just challenging their neighbors and their friends to share things they love. So there's so many ways to encourage your customers to do that, whether it's discounts or other rewards. But definitely you want to hear from the people that are using your products and services. This middle one, get good photography or video. I think you just cannot make up for bad photography. And you could have the most amazing product and not have a good picture of it. And that is not going to serve you at all in the digital world. So it's not, again, that you have to be a filmmaker or a professional photographer, but schedule a time where you can get like a bank of photos or a bank of content and just pull through those. So I think it can be hard, again, in a business to figure out where to put your resources and where to spend money. But as far as digital marketing goes, please make sure you have good photography. Also, share your knowledge. That's just something that I think we take for granted sometimes as business owners, is we're doing, and we're good at what we're doing, but we don't always find ways to share that with others. And so Barbara mentioned this too, but if there's something else that you are doing, just think through as an outsider, what are the things I'm working on? What would my community want to know about? Like I said, there's things that I do that would make great content for social media, but I just don't remember to even tell people, oh, we just signed up for this initiative, 1% for the planet, a couple months ago. And it just 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, I should send out an email that we are donating 1% of all of our sales to environmental causes. And so there's probably things that you're already doing and knowledge you already have that is very valuable. And then lastly, lean on creativity. I can't say this enough. I think there are so many ways to get creative, collaborate with others. Visit Tucson is a great example of collaborating and doing Instagram takeovers and just finding ways to bring people together online. And the most important tip I would give is have fun. I think it's important to do the thing that you love and then share that thing. You don't have to be a master at all of these different tools. People will be able to tell if you really care about what you're doing and if you value your own product or service. And if you're having fun, your customers will be able to tell. They'll want to be a part of whatever it is that you're doing, whether that's fixing toilets or selling t-shirts. Digital marketing isn't what you're inviting them into in itself. you're inviting them to be a part of something bigger than just an email or a social media post. So use digital marketing as a tool to invite others to know who you and your organization are and what you value and why they deserve your ear. That's what I've got.
I love it. That's fantastic. And what I love, Kristin, is that most of what you shared is not at all even about the product or service you're delivering, but about the relationship that you're building. And that's what brings that customer to you and keeps them loyal and happy. So I love it. So here's for any of you, I thought I'd give you the challenge that Jim posts about the engineering consultant. What's something the engineering consultant can do or talk about or share? Any ideas?
Sure, I can jump in. Jim, I would love to be able to sit down with you and talk about who your clients are, how do you generate revenue. But I will bring in a fun example of a company that recently launched itself into Instagram only because they wanted to appeal to a younger pool of talent. So I'm assuming that you are trying to build your company with good people. So engineering consultants, coming into the workforce, you're going to want to attract them. And a company based out of London, you might have heard of it, called MI5, just decided to launch an Instagram account because they want to appeal to a younger talent pool. So social media and digital marketing can also be leveraged for building your company in a way that you might not really think about. I teased my boss that I was going to fly to London and apply to work for MI5, and he immediately knew I was joking. But it's a funny example.
It's great. I love it. I love it. And I appreciate Linda's comment in the chat as well, the ideas of the things that they do, paying the referral commissions to anyone referring customers. Again, that's so important, right? What a great way to bring someone on board is that word of mouth and that loyalty that they have with that person. So I think that's another great idea, and talk about that, like I said, like Kristin said, and share that out on your formats, that you offer those things. I think that's fantastic. So great stuff. My last question, well, you know what, we're out of time. It's 3:59. So here's what I'm going to do. I asked others to mention if they wanted to see some future topics. They could list that in the chat. So if you're still here and you haven't jumped off yet, you might put some thoughts there. I just want to thank our panelists today. We had so much fun. I didn't know what time it was. So thank you all for sharing part of your afternoon with us. It makes such a huge difference to our businesses, and I'm just so pleased that we could have this type of time together. We're going to do it again next month. So think about Monday, May 24th at 3 p.m. on your calendar, and watch your inbox for the announcement and registration link. We'll keep you connecting for success. And don't forget, you can call our City of Tucson Economic Initiative Small Business Assistance line at 520-837-4100 at any time. And so you can connect with us as well 24 hours a day at connecttucson.com. So you'll find resources and you can sign up for our email updates there. With that, I want to thank again our panelists, and feel free to add anything left in the chat. I see some contacts there, so appreciate that. And we will we'll all have a great afternoon. All right, now we're ready for those cocktails. All right, thanks everyone.